Welcome to the Kingdom Podcast, featuring Commissioner Christine King, where all voices are heard.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Kingdom Podcast, where all voices are heard. I am your host, Christine King, Chairwoman of the City of Miami Commission, and your District 5 Commissioner. Today, with me are Roman Jones and Bismack, joining me to talk about all things Miami and their experiences. Roman Jones is the owner of Kiki's on the River, a well-respected, most loved restaurant here in my district. Welcome, guys.
Thank you. Welcome. Welcome, Bismack, to this podcast. Also, I'm co-hosting tonight.
You're co-hosting? Okay. Well, let's start with you, Roman, and your connection to Miami. What made you want to invest in the city of Miami?
Well, I came in 1992 for Hurricane Andrew. I got here a few months before, and it was my welcome party. And I was really a beach guy for most of that time. I'd met a girl, typical story in college, and she was from Miami Beach. So I moved after college with her to Miami Beach. And I started kind of developing nightclubs on the beach first and foremost. I had some of the biggest names, from the Cameo Theater to Mansion, Set, Mokai, the legendary Privé, and Opium Garden. And there came a point in time where I just thought that the beach wasn't really too business friendly, and an opportunity came up for me to I had been coming to the river for quite some time. Actually, where Kiki is, there was a bait and tackle shop, and I used to come and get a great Cuban sandwich and the best coffee, actually. And so that's how it all started. And I decided to open up Kiki on the river, and it was a huge hit. I'd never expected it to be the hit it was, quite frankly. And then after that, I kind of just decided that I was going to focus more on the river, because the Miami River is it's any river in a city, it's kind of like the artery of the city. And so that's kind of why I decided to plop down and focus on the river district.
And it's such a beautiful space.
Thank you.
It is such a beautiful space. I love to eat on the water and watch the boats go by as I'm having dinner or lunch.
I think everybody that comes to Miami just wants to be on the water. And so that's really nice. And what we try to do really is kind of keep true to the spirit of what was on the river. So not overdevelop the locations, but keep them kind of a little bit true to nature. Not being out of proportion with what the river's about. And so that's kind of been my personal focus as I develop other concepts on the river. They're going to be in scale with what the river should be, so. That's
great. And you, sir?
I think for me, I'm from Congo. One is that there's a similarity of weather. Obviously, I've lived in Yemen, in Spain. I've lived in a bunch of different cities, and I think one of the things, as a person in general, when you move to a place, you want to find culture and feel connected to the people, And when I live in LA, you just can find that. I lived in LA for 8 years, It was just a struggle, consistent struggle in finding that. And I think I brought my family down here for 1 month's vacation. And we were down here for 1 month. So we were actually in Miami Beach. They didn't like it, but they love Miami. So we started visiting up south and Coral Gables, whatnot, and past that, and then find some houses where then, we made this a primary home for us. But it's been great. People are great, I think there's a lot of culture here. I speak Spanish, so I feel pretty comfortable blending.
You speak a lot of languages, huh?
Well, just few, but
just a few.
Yeah.
You speak French, you speak English, you speak Spanish,
and 2 Congolese languages.
Yes. Okay. Well, I'm glad that you are enjoying Miami, and Miami is a place full of culture. We're rich with culture.
Yeah.
For example, my district, District 5, is the most diverse district in the city of Miami because it is literally a melting
I
pot.
was going to say, yeah.
I have Little Haiti is in my district. I have Overtown here, where this beautiful theater is located, Liberty City, Wynwood, the Design District, the Upper East Side. My district encompasses every walk of life and socioeconomic background. I have some of the wealthiest of the wealthy that live in Miami, as well as some of the more impoverished areas, which it is my mission to change that, because I don't believe that Miami can thrive unless all of Miami is thriving. And I work tirelessly to see that, which is why I'm excited about the projects that you have coming to bring more business, more folks into District 5. You want to talk a little bit about some of the projects that you have?
Sure. But like you said, first of all, Bismack speaks French, and so we met at Kiki on the river. I said, who's this tall guy? I said, oh, he's a basketball player. I said, not really interested in basketball players. But then we spoke, and I said, hey, you speak French. And so the same connection that I had with Haitian Americans when I first came to Miami, I'm not Latin, I'm French. So for me, the connection immediately with Haitian Americans was right away. And before there were Ubers, there were taxis, and all the taxis were Haitian drivers. So whenever I used to come to Miami, my first conversation in Miami was in French with Haitian taxi drivers. And so I've always felt really like at home because of that connection. And I've always been very proud of Miami, because when I first came to Miami, actually you spoke about Luke. It was known as a booty based town music, and everybody was like, you're moving to Miami, blah blah blah. But I always saw tremendous potential in Miami beyond the weather, and so I really wanted to make a positive change and a positive difference in everything that I did. And so the projects that we have coming up are all kind of multicultural, because one, I hate traveling, and it's my kind of way to kind of bring an experience of a different culture and a different setting along the river. So the next project we're doing is called Habibi, which is a North African Moroccan restaurant with that kind of energy, that kind of the music, the dancing, the food, in a beautiful setting. We've built a building that looks a little bit like a Moroccan riad, Moroccan villa. So I think it's very evocative, and that's what I like to do. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to do. I have a partner who's Italian, so I decided that we're going to do something along the lines of an Italian villa in an older building, which was the oldest restaurant on the Miami River. It was called Captain Tom's, and so it's going to be called Capitano, which stays with the vibe of what it once was. I think the restaurant literally was built in, I want to say, I think it was operating in 1919 or something. It's really one of the oldest restaurants. Might even be turn of the century. And so kind of recreating and bringing back to life that location, I think, is really important, for me. But like I said, I think the key is I'm a huge Miami fan, and I'm a huge booster of Miami. I'm kind of, wherever I travel, I'm always Miami's the best, Miami's the best, Miami's the best, and it is. And so it's about just elevating Miami, and I always go back to the root of what something was, or what was in the space before, and I try to kind of bring back that story to create, to create something that, like I said, is evocative, and lets people get kind of transported somewhere else. So Kiki was obviously, very Greek based, because I have a partner who's Greek, and that's kind of how I try to focus everything that I do.
And I love the way you look out for your employees and how they're local and you're interested in affordable housing so that they can have a place close to where they work and be able to afford to live, and how you would like to enter into that arena, ensuring that we have affordable housing.
I think it's really important for people to be able to live where they work, and vice versa. It reduces congestion, and it makes people take ownership of their neighborhood. And it also creates a synergy, so that if there's some hustle and bustle from a restaurant, for example, the people that are living in the area work in those businesses. I think that's the way to go. So,
and that's very smart, because it's not just applicable to what you're doing; it's applicable for everyone.
Agreed.
We want to get out of our cars.
Agreed.
But Miami right now is not a public transit place. You wouldn't say Miami is known for its public transit, not like New York or other places. But if we could find our way to have housing that people can afford to live in the same community that they work in, and that's what we're trying to do here in Overtown.
I know
create.
You're that's one thing that I have tremendous respect for you, and I truly look to learn from you in the coming months, years, is developing that vision of people creating a district where people feel it's a neighborhood, it's my home, it's where I work. And then people become proud of where they are.
Absolutely, absolutely. How are you on that? I know you have your stardom from playing basketball, and that's how you make a living, but how do you give back to the community? Because what I love is a great story, and I love where you see our athletes who take the time to give back to the community, because you remember what it was like to be that kid with a dream.
So our Runner Foundation, I think we had it now for maybe about almost 10 years now. So we do a lot of work back home where I'm from in Congo. We started basketball camps, clinics, and then we started giving scholarships to kids to bring them in the U.S. Full scholarships. We have done a little over 60. And then from there we started building schools locally. So our first school has been up and running. We have a little over 450 students. We go from kindergarten all the way to high school. Our second school is actually under construction. Should be open for 2025, 2026. And then we refurbish a lot of clinics, and we're also under construction of an hospital for my late father, passed away a few years ago. So we're a little bit all over the place.
But that's amazing, because that's what it's about, right?
Right.
When you reach a certain pinnacle in life that you can give back and make a difference, I think that's what we're all here for.
It's very rewarding.
I would agree, because I think at some point, obviously making money is great, but I think far beyond that there is legacy.
Yes.
And I think that's kind of the way I view it, because we are successful in life, but it wouldn't make sense that the only success people can talk about one person is that I made a lot of money.
Right.
I think the best success is that I made money, but I also impacted lives. I changed lives, I transformed life. I transformed an idea of a whole generation, which has become, at least a goal for me where I'm from. Is just that, there's so much negative that goes on, and it's never going to stop. And obviously, we got to understand we can't change everything. But if I can play my small part in a positive way, like Roman is doing, like you're doing, I think we all somehow contributing to society in a positive way. And with that, on the weekend, I can go and grab a glass at Kiki on the river.
And if you look at folks that have made tons of money doesn't make you happy.
No,
money, no matter how much money you have, it doesn't make you happy. And you see that every day. Folks that you think would have everything. And I tell my little people all the time, never look at anyone and be envious of them, because you don't know what's happening in their life. And
that's true. There's a lot of sacrifice that people don't understand. That comes
and
with
money
success.
doesn't make you happy. Money can afford you a more comfortable lifestyle, but happiness comes from within.
It does.
It doesn't come from external sources. And if you're not happy, and we have many examples of folks with money who aren't happy, who are battling demons, and they're miserable, versus someone who doesn't have as much, but they're happy with what they have. So
I think for me, it's always like learn to be happy with less, and when you get more, you always be happy because you have understand. You find a balance in life, right? It's like I think we all get to the point where you don't need to prove anybody that you got money. It's for you, your family, happy for you, thank God, But I think in the end, for me, I've been blessed to have such incredible parents. They've implemented some value in my life and have taught me a way of living that's difficult to lose, but at the same time, when you get at this level, I always, when I see people like Roman, yourself, like, you understand happiness in a different matter, in a different form, and I think this goes along the way. And it's just living a joyful life. Life is too short. Man.
Yes. And part of living a joyful life is music.
Yeah.
You come from
A music family.
music royalty. You come from music royalty.
Speaking of this, my father's a pretty frugal man, and one day we were walking on Lincoln Road, and there is a guitarist who's playing on the street, to make a little bit of money, and my dad, who's a very frugal man.
You got to tell everybody who your dad is.
So my father's an amazing English musician, songwriter, named Mick Jones of the band called Foreigner. Probably the song that everybody here will know and remember is "I Want to Know What Love Is," which was honestly it was a gospel song, which was one of the most amazing things, because you never had a number one hit that was a number one on the rock charts, number one on the pop charts, number one on the gospel, American gospel charts, and number one on the soul charts. And I think it just goes back to his roots, growing up in England, post-war in a very tough time. But so he sees a guitarist playing on the street, and he reaches to his wallet and he takes out a $100 bill, which I've never seen my dad pull out a $100 bill in his life. And I said, "Wow, Dad, that's feeling generous." He goes, "That could have been me." And I think that sense of like humility is something that I really got from both of my parents, my mother and father, both being immigrants from Europe. They were divorced at the time that they came, but my mother came to this country with $5,000, and she worked and worked and worked and worked and put money aside and put money aside. And I think that's always what I like to explain to people is, big things start with little steps. And I think that's the key thing is you have to kind of grind it out for some time, put a little bit of money aside, and then invest, hopefully in a little studio, a little condo, whatever you can afford at the time. But I think that's the American success story, and that's something that I'm very, very grateful to this country and to this city for allowing me to find success.
Yes, and that's what we are doing here in District 5 with our first homeowners program initiative to allow families to realize the American dream, with the initiative that I put together where I help families who are making decent money but are just priced out of the market here in Miami. We'll hold a second mortgage of up to $200,000, and I've allowed it so that we could stack other subsidies where you could get down payment assistant, closing cost assistant. And I love to tell this story because it's so fantastic. We have a family that's in the queue to purchase their first home ever. The house is $500,000, But when you add the subsidies and my second mortgage, the mortgage will be $84,000.
Oh,
That's what, and I think, you talk about happiness. I think happiness comes from success. Success is seeing. I mean, for me, especially during COVID, when I had people coming here and just, they were like, "Can we dance?" And I said, "Yeah, you can dance." And just to see the happiness on people's faces, I think for me is really, really rewarding. That to me, when I see clients visiting Miami, and I see them just smile and be happy, I feel like I've done my job, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably why I've been successful, because I really do care about making sure that people have a good experience.
And I believe that when you care, that shows in your work. It shows in your work. It shows in the product when you care. Like, my team is amazing, and they care about the community as much as I do. So it's not a 9-to-5 job for them. And that shows in everything that you do. When you do something that you love and you give it your all, you can't help but do a great job.
It becomes like family.
Yes, it does.
I mean, I have people that have worked for me for 22 years. Literally, the first place I opened up, I have 2 employees that were, I call Corey, who you met.
Mm-hmm.
I call him my day one because he was my day one. And, I met him, he was working security at Amnesia, which is where Luke and other people used to do parties before it became Privé and Opium Garden. And through the years, he's grown with me and has been able to provide for his entire family, has a house up north in Port St. Lucie, and put his daughter through college. I think that's, that to me, that generational relationship is very rewarding. And I think that's kind of the common ground that I have, with this man, is he's a big guy, but his heart is bigger, if that's possible. And I actually get goosebumps when I look at some of the things that they're doing in Congo, and when you see the kids that don't have much, but he gives them hope and he gives them purpose, and I think that's why there's that mutual respect. And
I love that, what you're doing back home. I love that because you didn't have to.
yes and no. I think we all say we didn't have to.
But you did. You did have
yes,
to. You
yes,
did have to.
Because there's a reason God put certain resources in your hands, right?
And that's a cop-out when you say you didn't have. You do have to. You have to give back.
And we must do better. We all have to do better. It's the only way.
Exactly.
So when I look at different communities, obviously we do work back home, but even within the U.S., different places I've lived, we've tried our best to have an impact into the community, because I do think that we are connected somehow,
We are.
Whether you believe in the
Or not,
vibration,
we are.
the
We
universe,
absolutely
all
are.
that. We all
We
somehow
are.
connected. So now, I don't necessarily have to say, okay, I'm going to do everything in Congo because that's where I'm from, because there's kids in a different part of the world that I feel connected to.
Right.
So, but at the end of the day, I do think that it is our responsibility to give something to the next generation.
Absolutely.
We can't just... the next generation cannot just say the only thing we have access to is video games and cell phone. I think this
Absolutely.
is not enough.
So
work ethic.
We've
Exactly.
come to a part of my podcast where I give our viewers and listeners an opportunity to get to know you a little more personal. This is called the Spitfire round. So you don't think about your answers too much. You just answer. Bismack, I'm going to start with you. Do you have a theme song?
Yes.
What is it?
It's by Lokwa Kanza. He's one of our oldest musicians in Africa. It's basically about a beautiful life. He's talking about a bird flying and finding its way in the air, learning how to balance, from the younger age. It was, I think I related to that song more and more, especially after I lost my dad. Yeah.
What's the name of it?
Lokwakanza. I would text,
Okay.
so you have the perfect name.
Okay.
And the perfect song. Yeah.
Okay, great. Now, we're going to go off a little bit. What is your favorite part of playing basketball?
My favorite part, I think, is the playoff and the desire of going after winning. Because, throughout the year, you face the ups and downs, the struggle, the injuries, being able to play through injuries. But now when you get to the playoff, it's almost like you have to forget about everything you have done before because they really mean nothing. You could be the number 1 team and, the number 8 team could
come and get you.
So now you have to turn on the next gear, and I think that's where I find the most joy. And obviously, it's a way. One thing that I realized, because I'm also a vice president of the Player Association. One thing that I've realized
so you're an advocate.
Yes, in a way.
Yes, you are.
So one thing that I've realized in a way is that when COVID happened, when we were putting the bubble together, the bubble was like an escape for people. People were looking forward to something. And then this season in OKC, they took a fan from the moment they left their house, how they get ready to come to the game, watch the game, finish the game, and go back home. So they leave home probably like around 6 o'clock, and they don't get back home until like 10:30, 11 o'clock.
Wow.
So like the amount of effort and energy they put in just to come and watch us.
Right.
It gives you some sense of joy to say, I got to get out there and play, but I'm not just playing for me.
You're playing for your
my
fans.
family. I'm playing for my country. I'm playing for the fans. And it gives you, just a joy, motivation to get up every day and do it again.
Roman, do you have a theme song?
I know this is going to disappoint everybody, but Hotel Lobby.
Is your theme song?
It is, because, it's like the first thing is let's get it. And I love songs where I feel inspired to get up and push and grind and work. And I think that's really, I like to lead by example. And I think that's really the key for me, is that uplifting, let's go get this. And I think that's really, that's why I love that song Hotel Lobby. I really do, because it gets me going. It's like, all right, I'm ready, let's go.
Okay. Do you have a favorite book?
I do. And again, this is probably going to be a little cheesy to some people, but
just don't say what Luke said.
But the Little Prince.
That's a beautiful book. That's a beautiful story.
It is, because I read it when I was a little kid, and I didn't. You just read it for face value, and then as you reread it again as an adult, it brings that innocence at appreciating the world in an innocent kind of way, but in a very true way also. And I think so. A lot of the messages are very inspiring to me, and I think I try to stay real. I try to stay true to everything. Well, my mom keeps me on track.
That's what they do. That's what moms are
Yeah.
for. Okay. What's your favorite book?
My favorite book is Peaceful Warrior.
Peaceful Warrior.
Yeah.
Okay.
Highly recommend it, actually.
I'm going to check that out because I haven't read. I read a lot. I read every day. Every day I read. I would go crazy if I couldn't read.
The Brain That Changes Itself is another book I recommend.
The what?
The Brain.
The Brain That Changes Itself?
Yes.
Oh, I'll write that down too.
A good one.
I think for me, one of the great things like this, I try to learn. I'm like a sponge. I want to learn something new every day. If somebody uses a word I don't know, I look it up.
Right.
And I right away and I learn it. If someone talks about something that I don't know, I think I know everything. But if for some reason I don't know something on the subject, I read about it immediately, and I'm just constantly every day learning something new. That's something that I think is really important, that I try to pass on to people. It's like every day is a day to learn something new.
If you could have dinner with anyone, living or dead, who would you have dinner with and why?
Honestly, I think when I have dinner with either one of my parents who are divorced, it's a very grounding experience for me, because I'm no longer Roman Jones. I'm just little Roman, and so it really just they're real conversations. They're not just fluff conversations. These are like real conversations you have with your father. My dad said something to me one time that was really put me in perspective. He said, you think your heart, you think things are good for you, da-da-da. People are going to be singing my songs 50 years after I'm dead. What about you? And I was like, whoa, okay.
Wow.
All right. Put me
That's
back
perspective.
It is perspective, and I think that's what I get when I talk to my parents, is I get unconditional love, but I get perspective. And that's really good, because everybody can get away, and you can get
lost in the hype.
Yeah.
How about you?
For me, I'll say probably my dad, my mom as well, but more so my dad, because my dad never drink, but he will only drink when he comes to visit me. So and then we'll have a nice dinner, and we'll open the best bottle of wine, and that's
French wine.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So and we have raw conversation, which back then, there's the emotional side of athletes that people often never talk about. I mean, it's just recently that people actually start talking about that and kind of understanding that. But my dad was always putting that into perspective from the beginning,
Oh, that's amazing.
And that helped me and shape my career in a way where now you can go in an environment where you see athletes going through stuff, although we can't talk about it, but you can pull them on the side and have a real meaningful conversation, because nobody asked.
And just because you're an athlete doesn't mean that life doesn't happen to you as well. You don't have the same fears, anxiety, and even maybe more pressure on you, because you have to stay healthy. You have to be able to improve your craft,
everything,
all the time.
Take care of yourself, take care of your family, everybody in the environment.
That's a lot of pressure. So, and without being able to discuss it.
So I'm glad now you can see it come around, but I'm just glad that I was grateful that God has allowed me to have a dad and a mom and now my mom, it kind of become her thing, so except she doesn't drink wine a lot, so I get to drink a lot more when I open the bottle, but still. So I'll say my mom, my dad, but again, it's a blessing to just have parents like Roman say.
Absolutely.
We're both the older brother, the first sons, and so there's always that pressure to be the surrogate father in a way to your younger siblings.
Yes.
And I think that's I really I kind of and that's my approach also to the people I work with. I kind of I look at I become kind of like Papa Smurf. I have to look out after everybody, and it's something that it's my motivation. There's nothing better than seeing like I said, entire families, because I have a lot of employees, and I've had a lot of people work with me 3 years, and have entire families that are, at the last Christmas party, I had one of my captains, Haroon, he's from Pakistan, and he said, Roman, you don't know that you changed my life, and because of you, because of the work I do at Kiki, I'm able to feed my entire family, and I just want you to know how important what you do is to people also. So that's very motivating.
That's awesome. We almost need a two-parter, because we've come to the end, but there's so much more that we could talk about. One last, because this is important for our listeners and our viewers, for our younger listeners and viewers. If you could go back in time and give your younger self, say your 15-year-old self or your 18-year-old self, advice, what would it be?
It's crazy, because we had this conversation maybe 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And he asked me the same question, and I said, believe in yourself. Yeah. Believe in yourself. The future is yours. Don't let the other pressure around you cloud. Just follow your path and believe in yourself, because as you get older, especially as men, we have this fear of like, oh, I gotta be the man, I gotta produce, and so it can be very daunting. It's kind of like overcoming your first hurdle. But I actually wrote it on my story at the time, and he asked me that, and I just said, believe in yourself. And I think that's really, really important to everybody that's out there. Believe in yourself.
I think for me is that dreams do come true.
They do.
And there's a reason why those dreams come to you, because we all have different dreams in a way. And I think if they do come to you, understand what dream you're dealing with. You can accomplish everything, which I think is impossible, but pick the one that feels good to you and live in the bubble like nobody else exists.
Yes.
And I think at the end of the day, you look years from there and say, you know what? I'm actually glad I didn't, because this actually happened in my foundation when I was 19. People say, you're too little, you're still a baby, because that's when I started my foundation, but I didn't care.
Wow. I
was just like, I'm gonna start the train. The same way I started basketball is the same way I started my foundation. And now that I look back, we have tens of thousands of people into our programs, and I'm like, shit, I'm glad I didn't listen to these people, because if I waited 5 years, imagine how many lives I would have missed to give an opportunity, and kids I could have put in better circumstances, and family, and so on and on. But again, for me, it's just that take your dream because God gave it to you. It's not my dream, just like Roman had a dream about restaurants that I do enjoy going to.
Yes.
And me being an athlete that people enjoy coming and watching me, and you being the position you are. And a lot of people actually looking up to that. But it's a dream that came to you,
It absolutely was. You really hit it on the nail.
Exactly.
It was a dream, and I am living my dream.
Exactly.
It's not a perfect life by any means. It's not a
never.
perfect life. Mm-hmm. But overall, I don't have any complaints. I am living my dream.
But there was another king that had a dream.
Absolutely. And I follow his philosophy. Yeah. Every man can be great because every man can serve.
I completely agree with you. I mean,
foundational. No matter who you are in this world, you can be of service.
It's a good business.
It's good business.
No, I know. I think, like I said, I think for us, being immigrants, first generation immigrants to this country, that resonates.
And we are. Actually, all three of us are immigrants.
Indeed.
Well, we're successful immigrants. That's what this country's about.
Successful immigrants. Well, guys, thank you for being a part of my podcast. I've enjoyed you guys so much. This is another episode in the can of the Kingdom Podcast, where all voices are heard. Thank you for joining in, whether you're listening or viewing us, and I look forward to having you back again. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Blessings.